Good morning, sports fans. You're listening to 96.9 FM WHYR-LP Baton Rouge Community Radio.
This is Eric Hatfield along with Coach Perry Daniels, and we are here to bring you the latest, the greatest, the best, and the most entertaining in high school, college, and professional sports. You are listening to Louisiana All American Sports. Ain't nobody dope as me. I'm just so fresh, so clean. Oh yeah, the singing is back. It's Saturday morning, and you are listening live to Louisiana All American Sports on 96.9 FM WHYR-LP Baton Rouge Community Radio. This is Eric Hatfield. Coach Perry Daniels is lining some folks up as we speak. The number you all ought to know it is area code 225-343-9927. 225-343-9927. We got a full day today. Perry, what you got, man?
Man, we've got a fantastic show lined up for us today, Eric. As you may be aware, man, and our audience out there may be aware, the ULL Raging Cajuns, the number one baseball team in the country, will play this evening for an opportunity to go into the College World Series. To get to this point, though, Eric, last week they had to play the Mississippi State Bulldogs, and there was a little controversy regarding a sports writer who was covering the Mississippi State Bulldogs, staying in Lafayette, in a different, town in a city, and he hosts a radio show similar to ours, and on the show, he got a little carried away.
I know what that's like.
right, and that's exactly what I told him, man. We understand. So he has called in, Eric, and we have him on the phone.
Oh, wow.
And we're going to give Matt Stevens, a beat writer for the Mississippi State Bulldogs, a sports writer for the Dispatch out of Columbus, Mississippi. Hey, Matt, are you there?
Oh, whoa. We had Outcast going the whole time. Hello, good morning.
Yeah, guys, how are we doing this morning?
Fantastic. How's it going today?
It's going as well as possibly be going. Hope you guys are doing well.
We are, Matt, and I want to thank you on the air for giving us a call here at 96.9 WHYR-LP Baton Rouge Community Radio. Matt, let's just start, man. Tell us what happened.
Well, what happened is I did the final 6 minutes of my hour-long show that I do Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays on Bulldog Sports Radio, an internet radio broadcast that is not affiliated with Mississippi State. It's just an independent radio show that I do 3 days a week. Final 6 minutes, I made a lot of comments about Lafayette, Louisiana, Asian culture, and I regret all of them, and I wish I could take them back, but I can't. I am just so very, very sorry that I hurt so many people, and I never really ever want to do that, and I know I did that, and I'll be sorry for this probably the rest of my life, and I feel so bad that my comments were so hurtful. And the only thing I can do now is take full responsibility for them and say that I'm going to do everything I can to make sure it never happens again.
Well, Matt, as you know, being a talk show host, when you decide to do that, you realize you have the 4 basic food groups: meat, bread and cereal, fruit and vegetable, and dairy. You have to add shoelaces and foot leather to your diet when you do that, and we're all going to eat a little bit of every now and then, and I guess you just got your biggest helping out of the way now.
I sure hope
so. So tell me this: what was it that led up to that? I mean, obviously, one thing I can speak for both of us is that usually when people listen to sports talk radio, they don't just want to hear scores and stuff or standings. They can get the newspaper for that. You got to engage your audience. So we all have to build up rants, and we all have to engage the audience. Usually before any talk show host goes on any subject, sports, politics, or otherwise, goes on a regrettable rant, something leads up to that build-up. What was leading up at that time? What led up to that, in other words?
Well, what led up to it, and again, I need to preface that by saying whatever led up to it is not a justification for what I did.
Absolutely.
So that is something that I take full responsibility for, and I'm 100% apologetic for. I've explained, on several platforms, including a couple of shows in Lafayette and a show in Baton Rouge, that I didn't have the best experience in Lafayette over the 4 days that I was there, and that led to me taking my comments way too far about the entire Cajun culture, state of Louisiana, and then obviously even the city of Lafayette, and I regret everything that I said in that 6-minute rant that I had at the end of my show. And again, guys, I wish I'd never said it. I wish I could take it all back. I just can't. And that's the only thing I know to do is to take full responsibility.
Well, let me ask you this. What was your audience feedback? Because one thing's for sure, when you go to one end of the pole or the other, you are going to get attention, good, bad, or otherwise. So what was your general audience feedback there in Columbus?
The audience feedback in Columbus was my newspaper that I worked for, the Commercial Dispatch in Columbus, Mississippi, took way too many calls and took, and answered way too many emails over something that was of my doing. It had nothing to do with anything or any work that I did within the dispatch. So that unintended consequence is something that I'm also can't be more sorry about, and I have people up the food chain at the dispatch that I need to answer to and make sure that this type of thing in whatever media forum that I'm in doesn't happen again. And I can do my very best to say that I'm going to try everything I can as a human being at 29 years old to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Hey, Matt, man, we can hear the remorse in your voice. And, you know, as a citizen of Louisiana, you know, I am extremely appreciative of that. And I just want you to know, as a fellow talk show host, man, that, you know, we all sometimes make mistakes. Keep your head up, you know, and you can move beyond this in a positive light. I'm going to tell you, you know, in our business, attention is good, and sometimes even negative attention is good. You have to be the most popular sports talk show host from Mississippi in the state of Louisiana. You're the most popular here. You know, I don't know any other talk show host in the state of Mississippi. So I've got to give you that, and there's always a silver lining. There is always a silver lining. So if the growth, your human growth from this is that silver lining, then it was all worth it, man. And I just want to thank you for calling in this morning and giving us an opportunity to hear your side of the story. You're taking up huge newspaper space here in Baton Rouge. I want you to know that. You know, so again, man, there's nothing you can do about what has been done. So just move on from here. Be extremely positive from here. America is a forgiving country. You know, we forgive you. We understand that things like that happen. So, hey, we also, when Mississippi State and LSU Tigers hook up, man, on the football field, we definitely want to talk to you again.
Absolutely.
If that's okay with you.
Not a problem with me. The only thing that I'll contend with you guys is the attention argument. I never want any kind of attention for hurting other people.
Understand that.
We get it. We get it.
Matt, thanks a bunch for joining us this morning. We really appreciate it, and thanks again, man.
No problem. I appreciate it. You guys have a good day.
You too, sir. That was Matt Stevens. Was that his name?
Stevens.
Yeah, I tell you what, man, that's a young guy, obviously budding in his career. That took a lot of fortitude from down below to do that. And, you know, let me tell you something. When you make a mistake, the best thing you can do is own it, and he has clearly owned it.
That's right.
And look, man, there's only one perfect man that ever walked the earth. And if you are not he, it's gonna happen. So you know, I think he's doing exactly what he has to do.
Yeah, man. And last week when we were covering the ULL baseball team, man, I mentioned in that story Overton Theory, a ULL alum. I have to mention Overton again because he made me aware of this story. That took place with Matt Stevens. So once again, Overton Theory, big props to you. And the ULL Raging Cajuns are playing this weekend for a shot at having the best baseball record in collegiate history.
That is something special. The University of Louisiana Lafayette is our lone Pelican State representative, and they definitely deserve a little applause for what they've done. We'll get to the team that plays a few miles to their east in a little bit, but look, good job for UL Lafayette, and actually Perry is the one that has the handle on the amateur baseball this week, so we're doing a little role reversal here.
Hey, man, and really, I'm in uncharted territory here.
225-343-9927, 225-343-9927. Come on down and talk to us.
So, the Raging Cajuns will take on the Ole Miss Rebels. The Ole Miss Rebels are 44-18. They are ranked anywhere from 6th in the country in the collegiate baseball poll to 17th in the country in the USA Today poll. And the ULL Lafayette Raging Cajuns are number 1 in all 4 polls. They are 57-8. Since the NCAA has gone to a cap of the number of games that a collegiate team can play, no team has won 60 games in a season.
Wow.
And the Cajuns are just 3 victories away from doing that.
Yeah, I believe, if I remember, this was a while back, but I believe they were capped at 60 regular season games, something like that.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah, this is really incredible. I remember you were telling me before the show started that it beat a Wichita State record. I don't think we had the year in the article we were referencing, but I do remember back in the early 1990s that Wichita State was a force in college baseball. I know that they crossed paths with LSU a couple of times. As LSU won championships in 91 and 93, they had to get past Wichita State. I believe it was twice, and this is going way back. It was 20-some-odd years ago, but I believe in 91, I think the championship game was against Wichita State. Again, 225-343-9927 if you want to set me straight on that. But that was a great team and a different era, and ULL in the Southland Conference, in the Sun Belt Conference, and then going through this tournament has a much tougher road to hoe. They beat LSU earlier this year. I hope they win. I mean, typically I tend to lean SEC, especially as badly as the SEC got slaughtered in the first round of the tournament, but in the sub-regional round of the tournament. But I hope ULL wins. I really do, Perry.
Yeah, Eric, and here's an update on those statistics. Florida State won 60 games in 2002. They won 60 and 14. Mm-hmm. And Arizona State won 64 games in doesn't say a year, man, but
might have been when Arizona State. Yeah, it probably was in the 80s when Barry Bonds was there, I'm going to guess.
That's the all-time record, yes,
right,
before they went to the restriction.
Gotcha.
So in 92, Wichita State actually did.
That makes sense.
So there we go.
Wow. So we have a lot. That's we got some good college baseball action from Louisiana folks. Obviously, if you're here in Baton Rouge, if you just take a sample of the public, I'm sure a little of the public is a little more sad than happy after last week. Are we ready to launch into LSU's misfortune, or we still have anything on
We are. Let's launch into that well, I'll tell you what. Let's go over the starting pitchers for today's contest between Ole Miss and the Raging Cajuns. Ole Miss will pitch a right-hander who's 10-1 with a 2.16 ERA.
Baller.
He's a 6'5", 205-pound senior.
Monster. Jeez.
Yeah, that's a big guy. And he throws a 90-mile-an-hour fastball, Eric, with a splitter that dives and cuts back door.
Oh, my God.
Pitching for the Cajuns is Austin Robichaux, who took the loss against the Jackson State Tigers last week in a 1-0 opening game in that regional.
Yeah, he's going to be focused.
Yeah, he should be. He's 7-3 with a 2.83 ERA.
Solid.
He's 6'6", 170-pound guy. Robichaux throws a fastball that can get anywhere between 92 and 94 miles an hour.
Oh, he's got some. Yeah, I've heard a little bit about Robichaux. I've only seen ULL really when they played LSU this year.
Right.
But I've heard his name called a lot. So he's got some skills. If you throw 94 miles an hour, you got a shot.
Hey, man, not only do you have a shot, you've got a future in
Yeah. Baseball. When you got that velocity, that's something that you cannot teach. That guy from Mississippi, that's a building I guess a positive stereotype of athletes. That's just a big old cornbread 6'5". I'm just imagining this smaller version of Randy Johnson mowing folks. What's his name again? Probably his name like Earl or
Chris
Joe.
Ellis.
Chris Ellis. All right. I thought his name name is going to be Earl or Judd or Kip.
Right.
Shoot. But anyway, I'm just teasing, guys. But that ought to be that's going to be a good pitching matchup. I bet it'll be a low-scoring affair.
I'm sure.
Well, speaking of low scores, that's exactly what our LSU Tigers turned in as what appeared to be a season of destiny, at least a season destined for Omaha, turned into one of the most bitter disappointments I can remember probably since the 1998 season when their potential three-peat went up in flames against the Alabama Crimson Tide. Last Sunday, I went to bed just kind of assuming LSU was headed for the Super Regional round. Got to work Monday morning, and a coworker said, yeah, they play tonight. I'm like, well, how do they play tonight? Isn't that over with? Because I left, stopped watching anyway, when LSU was leading 4-0 heading into the top of the 8th inning. And all of a sudden, Houston came to life against the LSU bullpen. They were facing, Kurt McCune was facing the minimum number of batters in the 7th inning. In other words, he allowed a couple of hits, some walks, by virtue of a double play. Only the minimum number of Cougars that reached base after the 6th. That's, so 18 guys. And anyway, Kurt McCune allowed the first 4 to reach base. Part was in part because of an interference call against McCune, and then 3 singles. And anyway, the last one of those singles drove in 2 runs, cut the lead down 4-2. I did not see any of this. You wouldn't imagine the way that LSU had been hitting and pitching throughout the regional tournament with the 10-game winning streak. The idea of them just blowing it like that was inconceivable. But Houston right fielder Kyle Servants, who was the MVP of the regional, drove in a go-ahead run with 2 outs in the top of the 11th as Houston rallied from a 4-0 deficit to force a deciding game in the NCAA regional. So they won that game 5-4. Houston had tacked on, after that 8th inning rally, tacked on a couple of runs in the 9th. And so they tied it up in the 9th, went to the 11th inning. Okay, so sometimes bad stuff happens, but I remember having an uneasy feeling on Monday morning just thinking LSU should win this. That Lightning's not going to strike twice. They are a better team. They hammered Houston. I'm thinking to myself, Houston used all the bullets in their gun. From what I've been reading, they had used pretty much all the powerful pitchers they had. Well, you know what? Their pitching became pretty irrelevant is the LSU never left any of the innings with a lead. They scored the first 2 runs of the game in the top of the first. Houston tied it up, and then in the 3rd inning, the wheels completely came off of LSU. It was an absolute stomping. Gave up 7 runs in that inning, and LSU went down in a ball of flames, losing 12-2 in the NCAA regional final. I don't even have the words to express how profound my disappointment is in that. I mean, obviously I make no secrets. I'm an LSU fan, LSU supporter, but when you have high expectations, LSU was a team that was underachieving for a lot of the year. And the last few weeks of the season, those bats came alive, and they looked like the team I think most of us expected to see. Coasted through the first 2 2/3 games of the NCAA regional, and were 6 outs away from advancing to the Super Regional as we all expected. And I think most of us were expecting them to advance. I expected them to advance to Omaha, and the wheels completely came off. You could say it's the baseball god spitting in their eye. You can say overconfidence. We can speculate all day and all night, but what is definite is that LSU's season is over, and they only have to look in the mirror to see the responsibility for that, as well as Kyle Servants played for the Houston Cougars, outstanding player of that regional. 6 outs, 4 runs with the bats you have and the pitchers you have. No excuses. I am very disappointed in the LSU Tigers this year.
What else is there to be said, man?
Yeah, not much more to say. There's some good news for Tiger players, although some bad news for the program going forward. No surprise to anybody, Aaron Nola was drafted high in the first round. He was the number 7 overall pick by the Philadelphia Phillies in the 2014 Major League Baseball first-year player draft on Thursday night. Nola's the Golden Spikes Award winner of a Golden Spikes Award finalist, 2-time SEC Pitcher of the Year. There was speculation the Mets might have reached up and grabbed him at 3rd, but he did end up going number 7 overall. Congratulations to Aaron Nola. That's something we all expected, and is some good news for the LSU program in that, we show once again we can help an outstanding player realize his dreams. There's another player also, Tyler Moore, who's a slugging infielder. He also plays catcher sometimes. Tyler Moore was named the National Player of the Week by Collegiate Baseball on May 19th. He has a lot of trophies and awards. Anyway, Tyler Moore, he's got a hot bat. He batted .301 for LSU in 2014 with 10 doubles, 6 homers, and 30 runs, 37 RBIs. Batted .378 down the stretch in the last 12 games of the season. And frankly, this was a down year for Tyler Moore. He was drafted by the New York Mets. But I'll tell you what, Barry, you know what? One thing I've always liked about baseball that's kind of unique and different than other sports is players get walk-up music, right? Well, if you've ever been to a game at Alec Box Stadium this year or last year when Tyler Moore was in the lineup, you might have heard, typically college kids tend to have some interesting songs. It is almost, in the South, in college baseball, you can almost take it to the bank. It's going to be one of 3 genres. Either a country song, a rap song, probably Southern rap, or some kind of classic rock. Almost 10 times out of 10, right? Check out Tyler Moore's walk-up music and tell me if this doesn't make... If you've been to Alec Box, you know where I'm going with this. And if you have not, tell me if this doesn't turn your head a little bit. Enrique Iglesias' Bailamos. So I've always wondered what that was about, and I came up with a theory that if you don't speak any Spanish, and I speak very little, and a lot of us around here speak none, if you listen to it when Enrique's singing Bailamos, it almost sounds like Tyler Moore. So I'm wondering if he goes to New York, which has if he gets up to the majors, they have a substantial Latin population. If he's going to, maybe play to some of the locals or some of that Enrique.
The Mets took him. That's good.
Hey, can't hurt.
That's a good point.
So if you know the history of that story, 225-343-9927, or if you even have an opinion or a theory, 225-343-9927, let us know what you think. But I found that very unusual.
And that should put the nail in the coffin of LSU baseball for this year. And now the next LSU thing that we'll be speaking about will be LSU football. And that'll be coming up in a couple of weeks as the football players reported yesterday to LSU.
Yeah, nail in the coffin would be appropriate. There's definitely a burial there. And I'm looking so much forward to talking about anything besides LSU baseball after last Monday. Real quick, before we get, of course, the NBA playoffs are the hot story right now, but we want to, of course, keep you guys posted on what's going on in Major League Baseball because that will be the featured act in a little while.
Let's do this first, Eric. Let's take a break.
Sure.
And then we'll come back into baseball and the fixer.
Oh, okay, cool. We'll come back and join us on 96.9 FM, WHYR-LP, Baton Rouge Community Radio. Alrighty, you are listening to Louisiana All American Sports on 96.9 FM, WHYR-LP, Baton Rouge Community Radio. This is Eric Hatfield along with Coach Perry Daniels, and we're bringing you the latest, the greatest, the best in high school, college, and professional sports.
Our music interlude was provided by Pete Rock, CL Smooth. They reminisce over you, and that goes out to the late Leela Baker.
Oh, wow. All right. Well, I'll tell you, that was a good song too back in the day. I remember those guys. That was right before rap really turned the corner and exploded into the mainstream, and they were definitely some of the pioneers that helped it make that transition. In Major League Baseball last night, great Friday night of action, a lot of leadoff action, a lot of good individual performances. I'll just run down the scores real quick. The Oakland A's beat the Baltimore Orioles 4-3 in 11 innings. A lot of controversy there. A tagout almost resulted in a little bit of a fight. You could probably see the highlights on MLB Network for that. The Cubs have won their 4th straight game. They beat the Florida Marlins in 13 innings. I often poke a lot of fun at the Cubs, but there are a couple of standouts. I talked about Jeff Samardzija last week, who's among the National League pitching leaders, but also Anthony Rizzo, who was involved in a trade a couple of years ago with the Cubs. He's going to have a great future. I've talked about him a lot on my blog, thedailyhattrick.com. He is one of the exceptions to the rule. He's got a bright future, and he helped the Cubs get that 14th That fourth straight win. That was the 12th home run of the year for Rizzo. We are only in the beginning of June. To Perry's chagrin, the blazing hot Toronto Blue Jays in interleague play defeated the St. Louis Cardinals 3-1. The Cardinals did turn a triple play in that game, which was really something to watch. But lo and behold, it was not enough. Jose Bautista, Joey Bats, hit his 15th home run in that game. Lance Lynn lost. No surprise to me if there's any one weak link in that St. Louis Cardinals pitching rotation.
Has 6 victories.
Yeah, I know. I like to mess with him a lot, though. Pittsburgh Pirates are trying to salvage their season. They blasted the division-leading Milwaukee Brewers 15-5 with an 8-run 6th inning, so they pulled their record up to 2 games below 500 as they're trying to catch up. The Seattle Mariners lost to the Tampa Bay Rays, who have been skidding badly, 10-game losing streak. They were potential front runners in the AL East. They've been anything but this year, but they ended the skid. The LA Dodgers hammered the Colorado Rockies in Denver 7-2. D. Gordon had 2 triples. He is really having a breakout year. A quiet MVP candidate.
That's the Dodgers?
Yes, sir.
Hey, man, you know who else is an MVP candidate? Yasiel Puig.
Oh, you think? Oh, look, don't get me started. I was trying not to go on a segue, but yeah, I can't say enough good things about Puig, so I'll let you do the talking.
No, well, I want to say that you jumped on his bandwagon early on last year.
Yeah.
And you've been dead on with this. This guy's batting .340, Eric, with no errors in the field.
He is a man. He plays so hard. He plays with this reckless abandon. And Don Mattingly looks like I don't think he goes to bed happy at night, but I think he's learning to manage this guy, which is what a manager is supposed to do.
Exactly.
Puig I can't say enough good things. I'll tell you what, if you were just a casual sports fan, maybe you got turned off of baseball sometime. If you're about in your 40s, 30s, or whatever, and you stopped watching a long time ago, watch this guy when he's on. He is worth the price of admission.
Yes,
Puig is a special athlete. He is fun to watch, and if you get the treat of it being a home game, you get to hear Vin Scully, who is a national treasure while we still have him here, age 86.
That's exactly right.
The Texas Rangers, Yu Darvish, secured his 6th win of the year. The Rangers beat the Cleveland Indians 6-4. The Atlanta Braves defeated the Snakes, the Arizona Diamondbacks 5-2. Julio Teheran ups his record to 6-3. Craig Kimbrell got his 155th save. Did I say? Got his 155th career save for the Braves. That is a Braves record. The New York Yankees defeated the Kansas City Royals. That game will actually be on Fox today. That'll be the game of the week at 6 o'clock our time. Yankees up their record to 2 games over 500. In there, the Washington Nationals, who continue to be a pitching machine. That pitcher, Rourke, I can't think of that kid's first name, but he's been quietly fun to watch, as is Rendon, who was the kid who knocked in his 9th home run. I don't know much about them, but I've been watching their stats at the top of the list now for several weeks now. They beat San Diego 6-0 at Petco Park in San Diego. The Houston Astros got a rare victory. They beat the Minnesota Twins in Minnesota 5-4. The New York Mets lost to the San Francisco Giants in Frisco. Buster Posey hit a home run that helped the Giants win their 8 out of their last 10. The Los Angeles Angels, who Perry has been behind the whole year, that beat the Chicago White Sox 8-4. Jared Weaver, that's a baller right there, won his 7th game of the season. And so we have, I'm going to guess we have a guest on the line who we hear from quite regularly. If you hear this bump music, you ought to know what time it is, as we have our friend in Las Vegas, Nevada, by way of St. Louis, Missouri. It is The Fixer.
I'm going down, baby. Yo, street in the rain. Come on. Ready to let it go.
What up, G?
Hey, what's going on this morning, fellas?
Hey, man, you the man. The work you did in San Antonio a couple of nights ago, you the man.
Hey, due to my background is in construction, I do know how to work on heating and cooling.
It looks like The Fixer needs to fix the air conditioning now. Shoot, we need that kind of fixer.
Yeah, man. Talk to me. What do you have for us this morning?
Yeah, well, we got a Triple Crown going on here, or California Chrome is going for the Triple Crown.
Right.
And Vegas has them favorite to winning the Belmont Stakes at 11 to 10, which means you gotta bet. You bet $10, you win $1. So.
Wow. Wow.
So he's an overwhelming favorite.
He's an overwhelming favorite.
That's what I've been hearing. I don't know much about the sport, but that's all I've been hearing about since he won the Preakness.
Yes.
Yeah, but you got to realize nobody has won this thing in 36 years.
Right.
And 12 other times we've gone into this last race with someone having an opportunity to do it.
Right.
And it hasn't been done. So,
Overwhelming favorites also.
Right, that's right.
Exactly.
It's hard to do. I'll tell you what, man. If I had a sports talk show the last time a horse won the Triple Crown, my sponsor would have been Pampers because I was in diapers the last time it happened. So I'm looking forward to seeing it just to see something I've never seen in my lifetime.
Right. Okay,
So
what
what else
else?
we got?
What else are we talking?
Hey.
Well, ULL, they are a plus 130 to win this series with Mississippi State, which means you got to bet 100. You bet 100 on ULL and you'll win 130. Now Mississippi State is minus 150, which means you bet 100 and you win 50.
So that's pretty strong odds.
Okay.
That for our laymen who are still kind of getting acclimated to odds speak, tell them essentially what that means for ULL.
That means ULL is not the favorite. You know what I'm saying is if you bet you got to bet 150 on Mississippi State to win 100.
Right. So they're favoring MSU, the
Odds makers.
yes.
Odds makers are favoring MSU.
Okay.
Now, you brought us an NHL hockey update. You made fun of me for supporting the Kings a little while ago, but it looks like they've beaten the odds over and over and over and over again. And it's funny, when I was a small child about 30 years ago, I used to really watch hockey. I was a strange kid, I guess. And the New York Rangers are my other favorite team. So I'm going to be pretty happy no matter what. But tell me who I should be putting my money on in this series.
I got to go with the Kings. They done beat the Blues 2 years in a row, and they just beat the Blackhawks, which beat the Blues. So I'm going to go with your Kings. How about that?
All right, that sounds all right to me.
However, we don't have any odds on that this morning, correct?
We don't have odds on that this morning.
No problem. Let's get to those NBA finals, man.
Well, the NBA finals, they are, the Spurs are definitely a favorite here. And they have the Spurs are minus 140 to win the NBA championship. Minus 240 to win the NBA.
Off 100, so like it's 100. You bet 100, and you bet 240, you win $100. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Oh,
that
wow.
is correct.
Wow.
That is correct.
Wow.
Now, how much?
Vegas is saying that San Antonio is just a more dominant team, and the Spurs. And the Heat are tired.
How is that? How do those odds tip after game one?
After game one, I have to look at that. I got it pulled up for you right here.
Mm-hmm.
After game one, they went up tremendously.
So, all right. Well, what else?
Home field advantage is the key. That's what it is.
So if Miami takes this one or takes the next game in San Antonio, you'd expect those odds to level out substantially, I would imagine, huh?
If they win today, then the home field advantage is over.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
So that's what I meant to say.
Right. So if San Antonio keeps the home field advantage, I don't expect the odds to change.
Right. Yeah, I think game 2 is really the key to this whole thing.
Yeah.
Is that it, G?
Well, maybe LeBron will drink a little Gatorade this time.
Oh, yeah, you should see the stuff going around the internet. LeCramp James, LeBroning, and they ended up in a cramp position. Oh, it's been brutal.
Contractually, he just can't do that. But I hear you.
Hey, but yes, you can. Sometimes you look on the sidelines, you see bottles covered up.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. They've taken the label off of a lot of them, or they'll cover the label up. So, hey, man, we appreciate you. You got anything else you want to add to the show?
Oh, no, we all good. It's getting close to Flag Day, and I'm getting worried here, my friend.
Don't get worried, Gene. Don't get worried.
My pitching ain't pitching, and my hitting ain't hitting.
Look, I checked the stats the other day. You've got one problem in the lineup, and that is Alan Craig has not regained his stroke after the injury. You have the other guys batting at or around 100. Molina's at 299. Carpenter's just above 300 at 309. And Matt Adams is surprisingly leading the way. So
well, he's hurt. He hasn't been playing. I don't know if he's playing now because the game comes on in 23 minutes. But
well, you'll be able to tell. So once Alan Craig works out his stroke, man, everything will be fine. The pitching staff, I noticed that they drafted a lot of pitchers in the draft, which was surprising to me because they already have a nice young staff. So, but anyway, don't get worried.
One thing to that, Perry.
Yeah.
One thing to that. If you got pitching, if you got good pitching, you can trade for everything else.
And I guess that's the strategy. That makes a whole lot of sense. And right now, they're in Toronto playing against one of the hottest teams in baseball, man. And as Eric was reading that report, I'm thinking to myself, gee, man, I wonder if can't wait to talk to Brian to find out how the African American did in Toronto this weekend. So
the solo rider.
Yes. So, all right, man. You know how it goes. We appreciate you, and stay off the grid.
Stay out of jail.
Peace.
All right, peace.
That was The Fixer.
I'm going down, baby. Your street in the rain. Come on. Boom, boom, baby. Ready to let it go.
Whew, it's hot in here.
Oh, we can have some Nelly going with that. We got a lot of Nelly, a lot of St. Louis themes going up in here.
Yes.
Let's wind down Major League Baseball real quick and jump into the hot story right now, which is the NBA Finals. Just leading the divisions, as Perry mentioned, Toronto Blue Jays are surging to a lead 6 games ahead of the Yankees. I'm eating so much crow on that it's not even funny. I made fun of the Blue Jays going into the season. They're plucking my feathers, right? They're going to tar and feather me in Blue Jay feathers when it's all over with. The Detroit Tigers leading the Chicago White Sox by 3.5 games. The Sox are trying to catch up, but I'm telling you, those Tigers are good. I saw them on TV last night. They can turn it on when they want to. The Oakland Athletics putting some distance between themselves and the LA Angels, 5.5 up. The Atlanta Braves in a tight race, 1 game ahead of Washington, 1 game ahead of Miami. I'm really impressed that the Marlins have managed to keep pace in spite of not having Jose Fernandez. He's gone for the year. The Cubs actually threw a dent in the Marlins' plans. The Milwaukee Brewers leading the St. Louis Cardinals by 5 games, and now Pittsburgh's starting to catch back up. Pittsburgh's only 6 games back, so St. Louis fans have a little reason to sweat. Actually, I know one St. Louis fan with a lot of reason to sweat, and that's Perry, but that's because it feels like it's 90 degrees in here, not because of the Cardinals. He
Feels like we're playing for the NBA championship.
No kidding. Yeah, it feels like we're at the AT&T Center. We get the real experience to tell you what it feels like here on Louisiana All American Sports. The San Francisco Giants are running away with the NL West, 8.5 games up of the LA Dodgers. Their record right now is 40-21 for a Major League Baseball best winning percentage of .656. Batting leaders, Robinson Cano leading the American League with a .333 average. So far, really proving his worth to the Seattle fans. With the Mariners, Nelson Cruz of the Baltimore Orioles leading the majors with 21 homers. Also leading the AL with 21 homers. Also leading the American League in RBIs with 55. Mark Burley leads the American League of Toronto, leads the American League with wins with 10, which makes sense because Toronto's starting to run away with the American League. ERA, the Japanese import, Masahiro Tanaka of the Yankees, 2.02 ERA. He is a big reason why the Yankees even have a fingernail on the cliff right now. Greg Holland of the Kansas City Royals leading the AL in saves with 17. Josh Donaldson in Oakland leading the American League in wins above replacement with 4.7. His power combined with that ridiculously good pitching of the Oakland A's is why they have such a comfortable lead right now in the West. Troy Tulowitzki leading the National League in batting for the Colorado Rockies with 359. In places that don't have micro-thin air, Yasiel Puig with a 336 average in second place of the LA Dodgers. Giancarlo Stanton leading the NL in home runs, 1 ahead of Troy Tulowitzki. Giancarlo Stanton of the Marlins, he could be a dark horse NL MVP candidate. Stanton also leading the NL with 53 RBIs. He's way ahead of Paul Goldschmidt of the Diamondbacks, who's a slugger in his own right. Adam Wainwright of the Cardinals, tied with Madison Bumgarner of the San Francisco Giants, and Zach Greinke, right now the Cy Young frontrunner of the LA Dodgers, all with 8 victories in the National League. Tim Hudson of the Giants helping with that resurgence of the big men with a 1.75 ERA. Sergio Romo of the Giants with 19 saves. Houston Street, though, interestingly, got his 18th save last night to tie K-Rod, Francisco Rodriguez of the Milwaukee Brewers with 18. But interestingly, the San Diego Padres are in the cellar of the National League, and yet he's got 18 saves. That tells you how valuable an asset Houston Street is. And finally, Troy Tulowitzki of the Rockies, leading Giancarlo Stanton of the Marlins in wins above replacement. Tulowitzki with a 4.8 WAR, Giancarlo Stanton with a 4.2 WAR. So that'll wrap up our action on the diamond. Now let's get to the big show. The NBA Finals. Game 1 was played on Thursday night with the San Antonio Spurs getting red hot over the Heat, and I mean that in so many different ways. Real quick though, I guess we should talk about, before we start talking about where we were right and where we were wrong, we should talk about potential I told you so's with our usual segment, I told you so, and then we will jump right into the NBA Finals. Come and talk to us, 225-343-9927, area code 225-343-9927 to talk with us on Louisiana All American Sports on 96.9 FM WHYR, Baton Rouge Community Radio.
I told you. What did I tell you? Didn't I tell you? 'Cause I told you. And when did I tell you? A long time ago. And what did I say will happen when I told you? Exactly what just happened.
Yeah, Eric, man, the Tigers are hot. It's interesting to see how far they can go. You claimed this earlier this week, man. You anticipate another national championship for these Tigers.
I think this is that. Well, I'm gonna be careful about saying that. I do think they're going to Omaha. No doubt about that. I hear you. And I think they can win the national championship.
Tell me, I got one last question for you, Brian. Tell me this, man. The African American for the Cardinals, what position is he in the lineup today?
But I think that this is the game. They're going to go back to OKC, and I think they're going to make the necessary adjustments to close it out tonight.
I think it's going to be a really good basketball game.
For once.
Yes.
And I agree. I think that's what I expect too.
Yeah.
I expect too.
Possibly overtime, but I do think Popovich and the San Antonio veterans move on as of tonight. I told you so segment.
We have coming up Noel Jackson with Music Satisfaction. All right, we got Noel Jackson with Music Satisfaction coming up in about 14 minutes here on Louisiana, on 96.9 FM. Look, Game 1 was unusual on so many levels. First of all, just the raw X's and O's. The San Antonio Spurs defeated the Miami Heat 110-95 to take a 1-0 lead in the 2014 NBA Finals. That's the headline. That is hardly the story, though. First, where we start off is the air conditioning. If you haven't been out of the country in the last week, failed in the AT&T Center. Temperatures in the stands were around 90 degrees. Temperatures on the court. Doris Burke of ESPN had a little device, estimated the temperature on the floor was in the triple digits. So it was absolutely brutal, and you can really see the team's kind of the energy level really down in the second half. Teams just jacking up shots, hoping they go in the second half. Turnovers that decided. I think this turnovers and transition points that decided as much as play in the paint and the post. It was a brutal physical game, and of course, it's not a surprise when you have unusual heat that's not expected that somebody might cramp up. But of all 30 players in the roster, who would cramp up but the big star of the show, LeBron James? And since LeBron has moved from Cleveland to Miami, you've had two sets of people, the LeBron lovers and the LeBron haters. The LeBron haters haven't had a lot to talk about in a long time.
They haven't.
But, they were high.
A lot of them, though.
Oh, yeah. You always need a black hat in any sport. I don't know why LeBron wears it. He's probably one of the nicest guys ever. Michael Jordan is one of my personal favorites, was a known jerk, and yet people love him. He's revered. Go figure. But anyway, nice guys finish last, I guess, like Leo DeRocha used to say. But they had to help LeBron off the court twice in the fourth quarter. He was having cramps, full body cramps, in spite of 2.5 bags of intravenous fluids. And he's going to take some extra supplements this go around and hope that his cramps go away. But he came back on the floor briefly. Had to be carried off for good in the fourth quarter. And, I heard all this criticism of him. Man, that guys play with broken bones and Willis Reed and blah, blah, blah. Let me tell you something. A broken bone is bad. It's very painful. But you can go past your pain threshold. However, your brain has to tell the muscles to work. And if the muscles say, no, you're not doing anything. And that's what happens with full body cramps.
Right.
LeBron said his body failed him. I saw all this stuff on Twitter. I mean, it is kind of amusing. LeCramp James and LeBroning with him. They had the T-bowing with the prayer and all that. You had all that stuff. By the way, I think there was a letter from Donald Sterling. He said, when he had those cramps, I went to my synagogue and I prayed for him. If you heard the interview.
Really? You're joking.
Of course I'm joking. Remember when he was talking about Magic Johnson? He said, when he had those AIDS, I went to my synagogue and I prayed. That was on Twitter, when he had those cramps. No, but anyway.
Well, look, man, Here, this is what... There was no surprise to anyone in this booth that Miami lost that game.
No.
Eric has been singing this since the playoffs started, that, they're just not a very good game one team.
No. So, I mean, this it didn't hurt them so bad if you look at past trends.
Right. So, and what surprised me, though, Eric, as I reviewed the stat line of this game, they had 5 players in double figures.
Right.
When LeBron James goes down, he has 25 points.
Right.
Dwayne Wade had 19.
Right.
Chris Bosh, 18. Ray Allen, 16. And Rashad Lewis added 10.
And I'll tell you what, if Ray Allen had a good game, if he had a Ray Allen plus game, they still might have won that game despite. I mean, he had a couple of great looks. He went 3 for 8 from three-point range, which is solid, but he had some looks that he normally doesn't miss. And if he makes that, or if LeBron finishes, who knows, maybe they take game 1.
And here's the key to this series. Can they stop Tim Duncan?
That's going to be a problem.
Popovich exploited their weakness.
Yeah.
The San Antonio Spurs, in my humble opinion, probably one of the most well-coached, most intelligent, fundamental teams in the NBA.
Right.
They are just exploiting that weakness. They see a wound and they are rubbing salt in it.
Right, and the only way to battle with that is to get physical with Duncan. You're going to have to hit him and have some sacrificial lambs. Udonis Haslem, I noticed, did not play. Greg Oden didn't play. I'm not going to judge Eric Spoelstra's won 4 straight conference titles, 2 NBA rings, but I would think you put one of those guys out there and just hit Duncan a little bit, make it hurt. I mean, you got to get physical Eastern Conference basketball or he's going to eat you alive.
Right, and you know what, man? I don't think we're officially... our picks for this series, I don't think we've officially made them.
We didn't. I don't think we did. I'll stay, even after game 1, my original pick was Miami in 6. It's still Miami in 6. I did not expect the Heat to win game 1, and they didn't.
Right. I'm going to go with the Spurs in 7. I think it's going to be one of the best series that we've seen in a while. Last year's was a great series.
Pretty good, yeah.
It was pretty good. But this time I think Duncan, Popovich, and the rest of those characters come out with the NBA championship, and Tim Duncan rides off into the sunset as one of the best characters in NBA history.
You think he's done after this year?
I think he's done after this year.
Wow, I don't know. We'll see. But I get the feeling. I never did get the vibe. He's obviously older. He's on borrowed time no matter what. I never did get the vibe he was ready to check out. But look, an NBA championship is a way to walk off for a lot of guys. No getting around that. I do think he has about at least an 8-figure amount remaining on that contract, though. That could bring a lot of folks back.
That could bring a lot. And he may want to take a tour.
Right. Might want a farewell tour. Right, like Derek Jeter, the like. But interesting. I think game 2, I think Miami wins it. I think it's going to be difficult, but I do think, I expect the air conditioning to be back on. And I also expect LeBron, I think with all this poking fun at him, LeCramp and all that, I think they kick the anthill, poke the bear.
Yes.
And you know what happens when you poke a bear? You get mauled. I think that it's going to be a competitive contest tomorrow night in prime time on ABC. I think it's going to be good entertainment. I think the NBA has once again delivered us a treat. We're starting to see a little rivalry. That's the other thing, too, is we're starting to see a heck of a rivalry build up here between the Spurs, albeit the older Spurs, and the Heat, who are getting a little long in the tooth themselves.
Right.
Interestingly, though, we had talked about Tim Duncan potentially riding off into the sunset and talked about the Miami Heat and all that. I wonder what happens. There's going to be a lot of speculation after the series is over to what happens with the big three. I think if they win, how do you not come back and try again?
Oh, you keep them together until they do not win a championship.
I agree. It's too, it's funny because everyone poked fun, and even by LeBron's admission, he was kind of playing with the audience when he was like, not one, not two, not three,
right?
Well, first of all, it's on the. He has a chance to be 3. As far as being in the finals, there's already not 1, not 2, not 3. It's already 4.
Right.
Man, he that would be some poetic irony and good for him if they could actually make some of that come true.
That's right.
So that is going to be really interesting and fun to watch. We have about 8 minutes remaining here on Louisiana All American Sports. I guess one topic we can discuss a little bit is also on the hardwood, but in the NCAA.
I'm glad we had an opportunity to get to this story.
Rashad McCants, if you remember, he was on the 2005 North Carolina basketball team. That was the year that they beat Illinois when D. Brown had his breakout year for the Illini, and Sean May won the most outstanding player of the tournament. Rashad McCants was a big part of that. He was the second leading scorer on that basketball team, and he told ESPN Outside the Lines that tutors wrote his term papers, that he rarely went to class for about half his time at USC, and he remained able to play largely because he took bogus classes designed to keep athletes academically eligible. And when he relayed that to Outside the Lines, that, of course, set the sports talk world on fire, as we have yet another potential academic scandal in the NCAA. He said that Roy Williams, the basketball coach of UNC, knew about the paper class system at UNC, and that the so-called paper classes didn't require students to go to class. Rather, students were required to submit only one term paper to receive a grade. I took one of those classes at LSU, and I did make an A, but I worked my behind off every day for 2 hours. No, here's the thing. It's called it's not called correspondence. It's called something else. I forget the term, but I'll just call it a paper class to use this vernacular.
Right.
And you have one paper that you turn in for the class your whole semester. Now, what you're supposed to do, first of all, you're supposed to be putting in the time as if you were going to class, and that takes a disciplined student. I remember I spent 2 hours every day, Monday through Thursday, working on this, and I'd send upgrades to the professor and say, hey, how's it going? He might say, you need to turn it this way, you need to include that. That's what a real class of that type is.
Right.
I don't think Rashad McCants probably didn't even meet his professors, except for an autograph signing session or something like that.
According to the story, he and some other UNC players would carpool over to pick up their papers to turn in for that class.
I mean, it's just the copy of McCants' university transcript, it was labeled unofficial. It was obtained by Outside the Lines, showed that his non-African American studies classes, McCants received 6 C's, a D, and 3 F's. In his African American studies classes, 10 of his grades were A's, 6 B's, 1 C, and a D. He probably should have majored in that a lot if he didn't. But anyway, regardless, this is just, it's another example of the hypocrisy of the college basketball system, college athletic system for major sports.
And whether or not Roy Williams was aware, it is not as important. He should have been aware.
Absolutely.
He has the responsibility to be aware.
Absolutely.
So I can't understand what would be the rationale for McCants to make this story up.
There's none. It doesn't shine well on him or the university. I mean, sometimes, and we're going to find, this story ain't going away anytime soon.
No.
But I think that it's going to, there are going to be more questions asked. We're going to find out more information, and all we can do in the short term is speculate. When the whole Donald Sterling situation broke, I speculated. I bet you he was probably jealous of all those athletes coming around, and some of that did get leaked. So we know that was probably a factor. I'll bet you sometimes your conscience just gets to you. You watch what's going on.
Sure.
You see what's going on with these other kids. He's out of the league. I don't think he couldn't have graduated with all those F's. I think he's feeling, there's some exploitation going on, and he's decided he felt maybe he had a duty to speak up.
And it's not just at the college level, Eric, that we see this. This has come down to the high school level. There are several high school programs that will give kids grades so that they can remain eligible in a what's the word I'm looking for? Disguised as though they're helping this kid.
Right. Well, Perry, now help, and Perry's coached a lot of high school sports. I got the privilege of tagging along as a special teams coach one year, and I got a little peek of what goes on, and I've definitely seen, just observing different schools, some of those patterns. But Perry, what's the benefit to a high school of doing that when there's not a major revenue factor?
Keeping the coach's job. Keeping the coach's job. Coaches now at the high school level have pressures to win. And at one time in our high school history, high school sports history, that wasn't the case. You know, I played for a high school that may have won 4 football games in 4 years. You know, so
Who's the quarterback?
let's not go there. But the point is that there was no pressure on that coach to provide victories.
Right.
You know, so but today's environment, there is all kind of pressure on coaches, so they place leverage on teachers, on administration to adjust grades, to keep kids eligible, and it's a sad situation. That's why you have kids going to college without the skills to perform. So, Eric, I know you love this line, so I'm going to deliver.
Oh, I know it's coming.
Listen up, silly mortals. Listen up, silly mortals. I know that a lot of high school kids listen to the show. That learning at that institution is in exchange for your talent.
Right.
Don't take advantage of, don't not take advantage of that. Make sure you take advantage of that, because that is your pay.
Right.
Now, whether or not we decide to give you some money with that, but that education can take you a whole lot further
in life
than that money that they're going to give you to play. So you have to take advantage of that. And if you're not, then the game is using you instead of you using the game of basketball.
While we have about a minute left, Perry, could you tell the audience real quick just what's in it for you mentioned there's pressure on the coaches. How does the high school benefit from putting that pressure on the coach? How does the high school benefit from their teams doing well?
Revenue. The more people come to the game. Have you tried? You haven't, because of what we do.
Right.
But admission to a high school basketball game nowadays is about $7 here.
Right, times a couple hundred people. That's
so
real
it's
money.
A huge revenue generator for the high schools. So they want to win. Some institutions are formed under the pretense that they're developing a better educational model, and really all they're doing is creating a sports institution.
And remember, folks, in the department store of life, sports is in the toy section.
Exactly.
So we got to keep those things in perspective. I don't mind using sports to build education. It should not be the other way around. So that is all the time we have today. And as we always say around this time,
ADT, JNS, love you.
Have a good afternoon.
Hail to the King and lots of love. May He protect us from the evil. Hail to the King, lots of love. May He protect us from evil.